He found shelter, but it was already taken. Some shelters are built to protect you. Others, they're built to trap you forever. Think about it. When the world outside is falling apart, what would you do for a safe place? Would you trust a stranger? Would you ignore that nagging feeling in your gut that tells you something is terribly wrong? This is a story about a man who had to make that choice. A story about a shelter that promised safety but delivered something far more terrifying. The city was a nightmare of fire and smoke. Sirens wailed like tormented ghosts, their cries swallowed by the thunderous roar of explosions that ripped the sky apart. Buildings, once proud and tall, were now just skeletal remains, their windows like vacant eyes staring into the chaos. Through this apocalyptic landscape, a man named Leo ran. His lungs burned, each breath a ragged gasp of ash and fear. He wasn't a soldier. He was just a man caught in the crossfire, a ghost in his own city. Every shadow seemed to leap at him. Every crumbling wall threatened to be his tomb. He scrambled over rubble, his hands raw and bleeding, his only thought survival. He needed to find a place to hide, a hole to crawl into, anything to escape the rain of fire. And then he saw it. Tucked away in a narrow alley, almost swallowed by debris, was a solid steel door set into the concrete. A bunker, a relic from a past war, now a beacon of hope in this new one. Night. Safety was just on the other side. He threw his shoulder against the heavy door. With a groan of rusted metal, it scraped open just enough for him to squeeze through. He slipped inside, the darkness wrapping around him like a cold, damp blanket. The air was stale, thick with the smell of earth and something else, something metallic and vaguely sweet. He pulled the door shut, and the deafening roar of the war outside was instantly muffled, replaced by an eerie, profound silence. His eyes slowly adjusted to the gloom, and he saw he was in a small, concrete room. A single, bare bulb flickered weakly overhead, casting long, dancing shadows that writhed and twisted along the walls. And then he saw it. He wasn't alone. In the far corner, a figure sat on a wooden crate. The shadows clung to them, obscuring their face, making them little more than a silhouette against the damp wall. They were perfectly still. A pair of eyes glinted in the dim light. They were watching him. They had been waiting. The silence in the bunker was no longer a comfort. It was heavy, filled with an unspoken tension that made the hairs on his arms stand up. This wasn't just a shelter. It was someone else's territory. Leo's voice was a dry, cracked whisper, barely audible even in the crushing silence. "Please, let me stay. Just until it's over." He gestured vaguely towards the door, towards the hell he had just escaped. The figure in the corner didn't move for a long moment. The silence stretched tight as a wire. Leo could hear his own blood roaring in his ears. Then a voice emerged from the shadows, low and raspy, like gravel grinding together. "This shelter is mine." The words were flat, a simple statement of fact, but they carried a weight of finality that chilled Leo to the bone. Just then, a massive explosion rocked the ground outside. Dust and dirt rained down from the ceiling of the bunker, and the single light bulb swung wildly, making the shadows leap and convulse. The world outside was getting closer. The choice was being taken from him. Stay here with this unsettling stranger, or go back out there to certain death. It wasn't a choice at all. He took a deep breath, the stale air filling his lungs. "I have nowhere else to go," he said, his voice a little stronger this time. He took a hesitant step further into the room, away from the door. He was in, and he knew, with a sinking feeling, there might be no going back. The air in the bunker grew heavier, pressing in on him. It felt hard to breathe, as if the small space was shrinking. The stranger finally shifted, leaning forward slightly out of the deepest shadows. A faint, unsettling smile played on their lips. It didn't reach their eyes. "You think this place will save you?" The raspy voice asked, a note of dark amusement in it. "You run from the bombs, from the fire. You think these concrete walls are your salvation." They paused, letting the words hang in the air. "This place doesn't save. It buries." As if on cue, another series of explosions hit, closer this time. The entire bunker shook violently. The ground trembled beneath Leo's feet, and he instinctively braced himself against the wall. A loud, definitive click echoed through the small room. Leo's head snapped towards the door. A thick metal bar had slid across it from the inside. It was locked. His heart plummeted. He was trapped. Trapped in the dark, underground, with a stranger who smiled at the thought of being buried alive. The fear that had been a cold knot in his stomach now exploded, flooding every inch of his body. The bombs outside were no longer the greatest threat. The stranger stood up, their form unfolding from the shadows. They were taller than Leo had thought, gaunt and wiry. "I've been in here a long time," they whispered, their voice a conspiratorial hiss. "I've seen others come, just like you, desperate, afraid, willing to do anything for a chance to see the sun again." They took a slow step towards him. And Leo pressed himself back against the cold, unyielding concrete. This bunker, it demands a price for its protection, the stranger continued, their eyes gleaming with a strange light. It's a simple rule, a simple transaction. Only one can remain when the morning comes. Leo's mind reeled. It didn't make sense. But then he saw it. Scratches on the wall. Dozens of them. Tally marks. And a dark, reddish-brown stain near the floor that he had tried to ignore. It wasn't rust. The terrible truth crashed down on him. The shelter wasn't a haven from the war. It was an arena, a tomb for two, with only one exit. The stranger was close now, their breath smelling of decay and enclosure. They leaned in, their lips almost touching his ear. I survived because others didn't. Tonight, you are the other. The faint light bulb flickered one last time and then went out, plunging them into absolute, suffocating darkness. He found shelter, but it was already taken. Maybe a story like this is real. Maybe it's not. But in the darkest moments, when you're searching for any port in a storm, remember that some shelters should never be entered. Some doors are meant to stay closed. And sometimes the monster you're running from is nothing compared to the one you're running to. If you want more stories that explore the darkness that waits just beneath the surface, subscribe now. Because survival always has a price.